We drove up into the mountains to shoot the Savage Impulse. Not many of these rifles around. I guess they're selling well. This one's in 308. Savage gives you this nice booklet with the rifle. It's not important to focus on it or anything. It comes with a target. I kind of looked at the target and I thought sometimes factories give you a factory target. And it shows a group, but this one has no holes. So I'm not sure what that means, but I'm assuming they want you to make the holes. Anyway, Savage Impulse. I was actually looking in there to see if they had a better name for the locking element in these rifles, which I call ball bearings and other people call ball bearings, but then some of the engineering people tell me that's not the right name. Anyway, forgive me in advance. I'll just call them ball bearings. We all know what I'm talking about. So this is how this locks. And we go through this more than once up in the mountains. But as you move this bolt forward, you can see these ball bearings. And as we go forward, essentially there's a plunger inside of a hollow bolt body. And the plunger causes the ball bearings to fit into recesses here, creating an incredibly strong spherical lock. And there are 6 ball bearings. And of course, these would have to be of the best quality steel. Fit and finish is, I would say, more than sufficiently good, actually excellent. This rifle definitely has a military look to it. I'll flip it around and you can see it, it definitely evokes sort of a military concept. The barrel is retained, clamped in place very heavily, more heavily actually than any rifle I remember. I don't know what these are torqued to, and I wouldn't find out. I don't think this is made for exchanging barrels, although I suppose it could be done. On the Impulse, I was able to determine with a flashlight that the bolt does lock into a barrel extension. So the barrel actually extends back to here someplace. And when we push this bolt handle forward, that's in the lock position. So it's actually locked into the barrel. Some people write me and ask me about how things lock. Then of course we can fire the action. And I'll just walk through the mechanics of this remarkable rifle. So it's a cock-on opening. Some people ask me whether it's cock-on opening or cock-on close. And it has a very nice bolt handle that's rotational. So it's hard for me to handle, by the way, without a stock, just like every other rifle. But that's cocking. So I have to depress the back of the bolt because we don't have rounds. So anyway, now it's open and slam forward, closed, and it goes. This might look harsher than it is just because I have nothing to hold on to. But a very slick, and I have to say, very smooth action and motion. And I was paying particular attention to how much force is necessary to open the action, because if you know straight pull bolt actions from military surplus or other sporting straight pull actions, you'll probably remember that there's a little bit of resistance to opening them. I would say these are like 8 or 9 out of 10. It's not that bad to open these. If you own a Swiss K31 or any of a variety of straight pulls, there's a tug, and some people that's necessary to get the action open. Some people feel that makes the straight pull actually less desirable, and you may as well go with a turn bolt. This is very fast. And I mean, essentially, when you move this bolt handle back, we'll just fire it again, you're moving a plunger backward, which allows the ball bearings, which you can see here, to collapse inwards. So, I mean, they happen to be ball bearings, but they could just as well be roller locks. And everybody knows how strong the roller lock system is. That's the Impulse, and of course this is a fairly new product. And I thought, in fairness to Heym, I would take out the SR-30. So that you can see the design here. And it's a typical of German products, or rifles anyway. The machining and everything is superb. That isn't to say the Savage is not. It's excellent as well, but you can see the action is much less bulky. This is much more of a sporting feeling rifle. There's no military aspect to this action. And unlike the Impulse, the SR-30, when you move the bolt back, only opens and collapses the ball bearings, which you can see here. They both have 6 ball bearings. The SR-30 has an additional safety bearing here at the back of the action. And to shear these off, I don't know what kind of pressures you would be talking about, but it would be very difficult. Most of the time the barrel fails before these actions fail. So getting back to the operation of the SR-30, just so you can get an idea of probably what Savage was wrestling with, I'm sure they had these to look at while they were planning the Impulse. We closed the action, and actually we're not ready for anything because it's technically a cock on close. We got rid of the effort, so this is very easy. And when we see whatever it is that we want to be cocked for, we push the bolt handle forward. You probably didn't get a good look at that, so we'll cycle the action again. We reach this point. Now I'll turn it this way, and then you can see the position of the bolt handle here, and then we decide that we're ready to fire. So we push it forward and fire. And this particular model of the SR-30 has an additional benefit. Oh, that's when you see white here, I inadvertently touched it, but it's good that I did. That means everything's locked up. The bolt handle's locked, the action can't be open, and it's not cocked. So you push this to the red fire position, then you can work the action. And this one has the additional benefit of a hair trigger, a set trigger. So it's a push forward, not a double set. Anyway, actually it's an excellent trigger. But so that's the SR-30, and it's always good comparing things, I think. So magazine retention in both is excellent. There's nothing for me to comment on. They designed those very well. Both magazines are constructed out of the right materials. There's steel or aluminum. I think this is all steel. I think I checked with a magnet, but I can't remember. And the Savage is also, that's a very robust magazine. Some people don't like polymer mags, understandably. The stocks, well, this is the Heym. Again, by comparison, it's an unremarkable but completely fine walnut stock. There's some glass bedding. You know, a lot of the factories just kind of squirt a blob of epoxy in the recoil lug recess, and that's your glass bedding. And this, by the way, is an unbelievably accurate rifle. They both are. The Impulse, typical polymer stock, again, good system for magazine retention, and no blob in here because with a polymer stock, or whatever this is made of, I don't know, I'm sure it's some kind of polymer. You don't really need epoxy, although a lot of people do that too. Good recoil pad, soft, and it's comfortable. It's I can't remember whether I noticed that it was like an exceptionally well-fitted stock, but it was definitely as good as the Heym, or better. So you've got a great stock working for you that's not going to break. Probably won't chip or disfigure or deform or react to humidity. And when we were shooting in the mountains, it was very wet up there. I took along, although it's not in the video, I took along my Mauser 96 straight pull. I have a few of these different straight pulls, primarily for the channel. But I kind of use the M96 as a standard, not because of the bolt location. The bolt location is terrible, bolt handle location. But as far as ease of operation, I have yet to come across a slicker straight pull. There's really no difference between firing these and working the action. Caulking is effortless. It's just an extremely well-designed action. It has no roller locks. It locks by multiple locking lugs. It often reminds me of an AR. Anyhow, in comparison, these did very well. The Savage actually, I think, is a slicker action than the SR-30. And I even that day took along my Blazer. Now this is, you may not have seen one of these puppies, but this is a 22, yeah, 22. I had a 22 Magnum. So in other words, this is the actually R93, not R8. The R8 has a different system for rimfire. The R93 I like better, just because it's so unique with the magazine sticking out the top. Anyhow, the locking system for the R93 and the R8 is very slick. It uses an expanding collar. Some people call it a pedals and so on. But we all know this action. And that is very slick. It's not quite as slick as the M96. But when you buy an Impulse, you're definitely up there in terms of the rapidity of movement. This thing is quick. And I felt that this was a very tough and robust action, which is consistent with Savage and the 110. Everybody asked me caliber. I think I said 308 already. Accuracy, excellent. Shooter dependent, of course. And I think you all know that by now. I'm not a huge believer in dragging paper and things and shooting them, because everybody shoots differently, and just get one and try for yourself. It has a very neat military feel. I'll take the bolt out. I'm always clunking the guns around, but there you can see those pedals. And as, I don't know if we can focus in on them, but you can see when it's out of the action, they're quite loose. But inside the rifle, that becomes a formidable powerhouse. And in this Impulse, the bolt head and the ball bearings and everything is massive. I think that that's a good idea. It makes things run better. I'll just set that on the table and then take out, if I remember how, the SR-30. I don't think it's a big deal. I'll just pull this back. Same thing. And yeah, there we go. So I'll leave those sticking out. So there you can see the SR-30, and there's the Savage. Let me see if I can get that cocked for you. No, I'm sure I can, but not at this moment. But maybe it's not a bad idea for you to see them. There are the two bolt faces. So I have no idea, what the arrangement was between these two companies. Maybe no arrangement was necessary. Some people were asking me whether one had to, make a deal for patents. This may be all public domain by now. These concepts are not particularly new concepts. But an exceptional rifle, and in case I didn't say anything, I probably didn't here in the studio, I got this rifle thanks to Reliable Gun and Nick and Shane and John. So I'm grateful for that. It's got a threaded muzzle, but I don't know what to do with that. I could put a brake on. I definitely can't put a suppressor on there. That's probably about it. So, I mean, I guess gradually I'm developing a rating system for rifles at your request, and I would rate it an 8, 9. It's for sure something that would be of interest to anybody who has owned enough turn bolts and pump actions and all the rest of the different rifles. And you don't have to put out the kind of dollars that you do for the European rifles. This is a super slick, excellent accuracy out of the 308. I'm sure that's true of the Creedmoor or whatever rounds they're chambered in. Not that I know that it's chambered in the Creedmoor, but probably. I think they got everything right. I didn't experience any failure to feed, failure to anything. Worked perfectly. I'm sure that they went through every possible kinds of testing. So I hope that covers the ground that I usually cover, maybe a little bit more. You'll see me shoot poorly up in the mountains, but it doesn't matter. I'm more interested in how the action works and the safety and all the rest of that. So I hope that's helpful to you and helps you in your decision making and your enjoyment of shooting, especially safe shooting. Well, here we are high in the British Columbia mountains. Probably one of the most beautiful places on earth. It's raining. It often rains here, but I like the rain. In fact, somebody told me God is in the rain. More importantly, I have Savage Arms Impulse, and I have to, first of all, thank Savage Arms and reliable gun, especially Nick and John and Shane. Nick, thanks again for getting the rifle to me. I have to say it's a very impressive rifle. I can't see any glaring deficiency, but I mean, I'm probably predisposed to like new rifles. And in a moment, I'm going to show you my Heym SR-30, which is quite similar. But in case you haven't seen, the many videos that are probably out about the Impulse, it's a straight pull. I don't know whether I should say it's heavily advertised, but it's unique because it's the first American mass-produced straight pull. I'm sure there were some custom makers. The finish is actually quite attractive to me. It reminded me of Parkerizing, and the whole rifle has kind of a military look to it. I'm sorry if I'm speaking loud. I have, ear protection in, so I can't really moderate my voice properly. I'm going to show you this side of the action just because there's something about this side of the action, but really the whole thing, that reminds me a lot of the Garand and the M14. It isn't only the finish. Like I said, it looks like Parkerizing. Just the blockiness and the flat surfaces, and it has kind of a military look to it, the whole thing. But altogether, I like it a lot. We shot some groups with it. Naturally, Savage knows how to make accurate rifles. We all know this from the 110 and all the models that they've made for years, from 22s to high powers. I think it's safe to say that Savage knows how to make accurate rifles, and this is no exception. So operation, fairly intuitive, very quick, and I think it'll get quicker once I get used to the bolt movement. But essentially that's all you need to do to lock the bolt. I should do that again. So you push forward and the bolt handle tips. I'm going to show you the Heym in a moment, and you'll see where it differs from the Savage. But anyway, we're locked. So if we had a cartridge, it would fire. And then operation's very simple, just forward and backward. To unlock the bolt, you push on the back of the bolt shroud, and then you can open the action. Everything else is fairly straightforward bolt action design. I noticed it has an excellent magazine made out of steel, except for that might be steel too. I didn't check with my magnet, but nice, heavy magazine. It's good. I think the follower might be a polymer. Anyway, people always ask me, details, and I don't always have the answer, but it looks like a sheet metal with a plastic follower. And very slick replacement. And like I said, I'm going to show you that action again because it's so striking. It's unlike anything else on the market. Very, very cool looking rifle. Some people have seen these, and not everyone is attracted to this style, but it's definitely catchy, and I don't think it would be a big deal for Boyd's or somebody like that to make a walnut stock with maybe an oil finish. That's probably what I would put on. It's got a medium heavy fluted barrel. I don't know how many different models there are of the Impulse. Probably not many yet, and then they usually add more. And it's threaded at the muzzle, as you can see, but you know, I don't have access to anything to put on there. I guess I could put a muzzle brake. It has a Picatinny rail on the action part of the receiver, and removing the bolt is accomplished with this button here. Oh, and the safety, of course, is here on the tang, which is, you know, easy and positive, although it probably doesn't lock the sear. Scope mounting is a cinch because it's a familiar system. And the rifle points very well, and the barrel is excellent. That medium weight, I like that. You get that, what they call hang to the barrel. And of course the trigger, which is adjustable by the owner, is near perfect let off. As you know, I'm not fussy about triggers, but that's a very slick gun, superb accuracy. So what we'll do is take a few shots. I'll set this aside now, and I'll show you the Heym. Well, doesn't that look like a wet hunting rifle? So this is an entirely different version of the ball bearing lock system. I'll flip it around. That's the SR-30. So that's the original commercial product with the ball bearing locks. It's a very light, very attractive rifle, and it has some different features. I better hold it steady for the camera. This one has a set trigger. This one is in 270, and the Savage Impulse is in 308. And I think the Impulse is available in all the usual calibers for now. But you know, everything changes, depends how the sales go. I'll probably buy this rifle, but you know, I'll see what other calibers are around. And I made videos on the Heym, so it works about the same except for one thing. You have to push the bolt handle forward just that little extra bit in order to cock the action. Whereas on the Savage, the bolt is in a more conventional position, and by rotating the bolt, it's cocked. In some ways, the Savage is slightly more intelligent design, although I probably shouldn't say intelligent. It's, you know, a different way of doing things. Somehow the Savage is actually slightly slicker to operate. This is a dramatically lighter rifle. And of course you can operate them from the shoulder. Tends to jump back on me. I'm not slamming it enough, I guess. Anyhow, and it has a, you know, proprietary scope system. Magazine release is quite positive, also a steel magazine. Beautifully made, actually, and the follower is steel on this one as well. Anyway, they're actually not that far apart in price, but the Savage is less expensive. Anyhow, I just thought I'd show you this one because it predates that one by a few years. But I'll pick up the Savage again. Might be an idea to pop some, you know, M14 style sights on this. It just feels like a rifle that I'd like to shoot with iron sights as opposed to a scope all the time. You know, naturally for hunting, for long range, scopes are more practical. But I think there's a place, especially on this particular rifle. There's a, like I said, there's a military beauty to this remarkable rifle, and there's nothing else. If you're tired of turn bolts, because we've got no end of turn bolts, there are so many for so long. This is very cool. Yeah, I like everything about this rifle. Anyway, we'll load it up and take a few shots. very slick. So, you know, this is very short range, but this really is an excellent rifle. It's very, very easy to handle. I like that it's something different. Maybe some of you own a Blaser R8 or R93. There are quite a few European straight pull bolts, but I think this is up there. It's an excellent rifle. I don't make a habit of putting up, you know, paper targets. There are lots of people that do that, and I can do that too. But really, it's how the action works and how it feels that's more important to me. You know, when you're deer hunting, it's an entirely different situation. But for sure, this is quite unique and worth a very serious look for anybody interested in new designs. And I have to applaud Savage for putting something on the market that really is a change of course for an American manufacturer. And no one, you know, people may like something, people may not like something, but it is an accomplishment to get this into people's hands. So thanks again to Savage, and thanks to Reliable again for thinking of me and making this happen, or making it possible. All right, take care until the next video, and we'll see you next time.